Hi everyone, Derek Brown here. Welcome to another video on my channel. Today I'm talking about why I'm taking the General Contractors Course and why it might be a good idea. Now, before I start, it's important to note that I'm in Utah, and so the exact details might be a little bit different in your state, but I'm sure that most states are similar. So, all right, let's get into it. So, the basic requirements of becoming a GC are one, you work a certain amount of hours in the construction industry. Um, in Utah, it's 4,000 hours, which equates to 2 years of full time work. Um, and I can say Utah is definitely on the low end. It very recently, I think 2 years ago, was 10,000 hours or 5 years, and they switched it to 4,000 just because they needed more GCs due to the real estate boom. Um, so that's number one. Number two is to take a 30-hour course, technically a 25-hour course, and then a 5-hour additional business law course um, on uh, general construction or contracting. Um, or you can get a degree in construction real estate or construction management from a university. So obviously, if you did that, you know way more. You're probably not watching this video. For the rest of us, we have to take the 30-hour course. And then the third thing is to pass a test, basically saying you listened in the course and you learned what you're supposed to learn. Probably important. And then the fourth is to get insurance that covers general liability. And I'll talk more about that later. In the description below, I will drop a link to the application for Utah, which shows all the steps in detail. There's quite a bit more, like just making sure you're, uh, didn't go to jail or just random stuff like that. I won't cover that here. And so, anyways, back to why you're here, which is why I feel I need to take the, or why I feel I needed to take the course to become a GC. Um, so a little bit of backstory on me. I have a lot of land in a killer college housing location that I was able to acquire for free. I'm making a video on that right now, so you should subscribe and get a notification when that's up, so you can watch it. But so basically, I have this lot, and after running some analysis and pro formas, I decided to keep the lot instead of selling it, and to ultimately build a single family home with a legal accessory apartment on it. Very popular in the area that I'm at because it's within 2 miles of two major universities here in Utah, and should generate some great cash flows, which is at the end of the day all that I'm about. So, um, so at the time I got this lot, I was working in commercial real estate, making roughly $72,000 a year. Had two properties at that point, both of which I just Airbnb'd and was making roughly 30,000 a year in profit, while living for free in the basement of one of them. So it was like a split level legal accessory, same thing. And that allowed me to reduce my expenses down um, hugely because the number one expense that we have is our housing. So without that, just uh, makes it much easier to get ahead in life. So anyway, so after doing some of these basic analytics, it became pretty obvious that if I was to be an owner builder on this house and do a lot of the work myself, only subcontracting out things like the excavation, the foundation, and the framing, while doing the rest myself, except for some of those specialty items, um, I would save probably 3 to 4 times what I make in my job during the same period of time, which ultimately led me to quit and really dive into this full time about 6 months ago. Um, and so, and then obviously what made it even more appealing was that, the free lot gave me which valued roughly at $200,000 because gave me a lot of wiggle room just in case the market tanked or took 2 years instead of one to build a lot. Um, so back to the general contractor's license though. Um, I'm sure a lot of you that are somewhat familiar say, well, you don't need to be a GC if you're going to be an owner builder. So, what's the whole point of this video? The reason why I am taking the course is, over the last few months of planning this, there's really one area where I have felt pretty inadequate, and believe and hope this course will fill in the gaps. And in my opinion, it's the hardest part about being an owner builder on your first build, when you have the construction experience, and that is estimating costs. Um, so on all the flips that I've done, pretty much done all the work myself, except for some specialty things like the HVAC. So ultimately, costs were basically just material costs, that I estimated by Googling the materials or looking them up on Home Depot, and then just using the room size and doing some math, and you can easily get pretty close to the cost of whatever it's going to be. And then you got to figure out, if I'm worth $20 an hour, then how many hours is going to take me. And so get that sweat equity. Um, and so, that just felt so easy compared to these more specialized and expensive bids that I was getting. Like the sewage lateral or the foundation, the framing. And now I know there's a bunch of you guys saying, well, it's easy. You just call a bunch of people and you go with the lowest / best value. And, if you haven't figured it out, you haven't called enough people. And I think that strategy works most of the time. And it probably worked great in 2018. It'll work great here in a couple years or a couple months. I don't know. But in this market with the labor shortage, it has caused a great deal of variance to be in the bids that I've been getting. For example, my sewage lateral, which includes the power, water, gas, and internet. I've had bids ranging from $22,500 all the way up to $40,000, which is a pretty outrageous spread if you ask me. With this one, you can't even argue like, well, okay, well, one's probably low end, one's probably high end. That's why there's variance. With this one, it's so regulated by the city that they literally have to do the exact same thing, or the city would make them do that, and I wouldn't have to pay for that. So, it's just crazy with the shortage. People can essentially ask whatever they want, and people will still do it. And so makes it very challenging, even if you're only subcontracting out a small amount of stuff, to not go $100,000 over what you should have done. I've also seen similar variance, and just spreads and all the bids I've gotten for the excavation, framing, and foundation, which I'm hiring out. And makes me essentially wonder, like, okay, well, if I don't do this right, I could pay 100% more for this house, or at least for the part that I'm subcontracted out. And I won't even know it because, you just don't know. And then, here, if the market did tank 50%, or if the recession does come, well, now, that's the wiggle room that you're getting screwed on. So, it would really suck to be able to do it for twice as cheap later on. Which, I'm willing to say, okay, I'll take the markup just because the market's hot, but it doesn't make sense to pay 4 or 5 times more for something. And so, for me, the cost in Utah, the cost of this course, it's $320. Takes 3 days, and it's done in 8-hour segments, so 3 full-time days. And honestly, if it helps just save on one of those bids, it'll be have a massive ROI. And so now I want to talk about jump back into the requirement I talked about at the beginning of having general liability insurance. After taking this course and passing the test, I'll have all the requirements that are required for becoming a GC. but the average cost for a GC for this insurance is roughly $192 a month, from what I found on Google, through I think Next Insurance, which if you are self-employed, you get their ads quite a bit. Um, and so, I'm looking into the benefits of having that as an owner builder. But it's something that I really don't, because I don't need to be a GC. I don't need to have that. And so, it might just be a couple $1,000 expense that I don't necessarily need to have. And right now, being scrappy, I'm just debating if that's something I want to take on, or, something that I need. And so, for now, it's kind of up in the air, which is why I actually titled the video, I'm taking the General Contractors Course, instead of saying I'm getting my General Contractor's license, simply because I'm uncertain if I'm going to actually fill out the application and do it, just because it's not necessarily at this moment. I'm sure I'll do it in the next year, or when I'm done, or, whenever, just because it is good to have. So anyways, but I'll be taking this course later this week, and I'll post an update at the end to let you know if it was worth it, and if my estimating concerns have been resolved. And hopefully, I pray it does. So until next time, thanks.